lukewarm on the scarred oak grain. 19 and desperate for the nectar of the wheat, I sat at the altar, the collective rain, in a courtroom of laughter and forced symmetry. Someone spoke of a grip on a chrome handlebar, a ritual of balance in the midsummer heat. And I felt the ricue, the pull of the bar, like the ocean withdrawing before the defeat. It leaked like a chemical through a hairline crack, a polished revision of the things I lack, an edited version, a surgical scene, vapor escaping from an unlit machine. Oh, I'm building a father out of copper and air, a perfect geometry of the things that weren't there. I'm pedaling a bicycle of auxiliary lights through the Sabbath's dead air and the mercury skies. It isn't the past, it's the current demand to be a resident of the predictable land. I'm a technician of the false, an artisan of the if, hanging off the edge of a chronology's cliff. I gave them the Sunday, I gave them the wheel, a friction of rubber on a sun-baked street. I described the pressure, the tactile feel of a hand on the seat that made the world complete. But the blueprint was empty, the suit was a void, the Sunday was a vacuum that I've quietly destroyed. My father was only a vector of none, a silence that started before I'd begun. The most terrifying part of the mechanical play is how the invention starts leading the way. I swallowed the fiction, I digested the ghost, I became the inhabitant I needed the most. The lie is a gyroscope, a steadying force, keeping me level on a hollowed out course. The bicycle is a fossil, the chrome is a blur, everything is quiet where the frequencies were. Just the auxiliary wheel, just the tilt of the head, inhabiting the version that I've finally fed. The auxiliary blueprint, the auxiliary blueprint, the auxiliary blueprint, the auxiliary blueprint, the auxiliary blueprint.
The limestone floor was a cold and bitter tongue, teaching a dialect that the marrow should know. I was 12 when the syllables started to be rung from a throat that was only meant to let the silence grow. It wasn't Latin and it wasn't a prayer, it was a mouthful of salt and a friction of the lung, a nonsense geography hanging in the air, while the heavy iron bells were being rung. They brought the stagnant water and the dry white bread, attempting to hollow out the things that I'd said. They used the hunger as a surgical tool to extract the shadow from the mouth of the fool. Oh, the blessing and the blow are the same kind of heat, a written impression of the spirit and the defeat. There's no difference between the sanctuary and the cage when the mercy is written with a knuckle on the page. I'm the unwritten chapter, the error in the creed, watching the flowering of the unbridled seed in the lithology of the wound. Barnaby was a master of the heavy wooden law. He believed the friction could purify the flaw. He turned my ribs into a salter of the bruise, calculating the penance I was forced to choose. So I took the 3-day walk through the dust and the gray, burning the parchment just to keep the winter at bay. I used the in the beginning to warm my frozen hands on the long, slow march through the indifferent land. Salvador is a hive of sulfur and of zinc, standing on the edge, standing on the brink of a city that chews on the salt and the bone, where every traveler is a god of the unknown. I've seen the worst that the holy can do, and I'm washing the ink right out of the view. The Bible is a furnace, the road is the law. I'm recording every detail that the vision ever saw. My feet are a ledger of the limestone and the red. I'm the only living thing among the resurrected dead. No more exorcisms, no more prayers, just the silence, the lithology of the wound. The bargain was struck in a room of peeling lint. No oxygen tanks, no surgical repair, just the friction of the integument and the copper tin of a logic that didn't need a prayer. She said, I am not a harbor, I am not a cure. You are not the technician for the fever I sustain. We were just a temporary oscillation, fast and pure, a brief disruption in the industrial grain. Oh, the unsaving is the only honest law.
architecture of the fractured and the raw. I'm dismantling the temple and the holy lit light to discover the real center of the unrendered sky. I'm the master of the stay, the guardian of the weight, accepting the silence of an absolute state. Then the metal met the center on a Tuesday of sleet, an abrupt interruption of the rhythmic heat. The room turned to salt and the ceiling turned to lead, recording the inventory of the things she never said. I spent 7 sunsets in a vacuum of the self, drinking down the mercury from the lowest shelf. I shouted at the rafters where the architect should be, but the rafters were a mirror of the nothing that is me. I told the furniture my lids were made of stone, that the saline would never find a witness of its own. A professional performer of a terminal trust, whispering my secrets to the residue and dust. But the salt is a secret, a subterranean tide with nowhere to go and with nowhere to hide. The valve is leaking in the unlit hall, the zinc is cold, the bellows are still. I've reached the bottom of the absolute will. No more rescuers, no more priests, just the leftover carbon from the beautiful feast. The valve is closed, the